Hello everyone, and welcome to the next edition of the Holland Office Museum's Artifact video series. My name is Ryan Duffy, I'm the director of the museum, and this week we're going to touch upon a topic that we touched upon briefly in a previous video, but I'd like to delve more deeply into this portion of the topic, and that would be the Richmond Mansion. Now, we did talk about the mansion briefly when we talked about the owners of the home, Dean and Mary Richmond, in one of our very early videos, but I felt it was time to talk a little bit more about the structure itself, because it was probably the most beautiful of the homes in Batavia while it was still standing, and is still one of the most well-known buildings, even though it's been gone now for over 50 years. However, even though it's known as the Richmond Mansion, the building did not start out being owned by the Richmonds. It was actually built in 1838 by a William Davis, and he built it on the site which today would be on East Main Street near the corner of Ross Street. Though when the building that Davis built would not accurately reflect the majesty that would become the Richmond Mansion, as it would be added on to many times in its history. Now, Davis would eventually sell the home in 1846 to a Judge Dibble, and he is the one who would sell the home to Dean Richmond in 1854. Now, Dean was a very wealthy man by this point, as he had made a lot of money in the railroad industry, so he was able to buy probably the most beautiful home he possibly could, and in 1854 he paid $9,000 for the mansion. And it was from there that it would take off. Now, the Richmonds were able to make this home an extremely beautiful and extravagant home due to Dean's wealth, but also Mary's acumen for interior design. So she took that and put that forth to the renovations and the redesigns to make a very imposing home. Now, the first step in the restoration was to change the federal style front to something with a little bit more gravitas, and they made the home into a much larger home with the 4 columns that we sort of recognize as a home. Those were not original to the building, but something that the Richmonds added. And these columns would actually be 2 stories high, so they were massive pieces. On top of that, at the very top of the roof, they actually added a balcony that went all the way around the home, giving views of all the surrounding area. They added a variety of large and beautiful gardens and greenhouses around the home, particularly behind the home, as Mary Richmond was a very avid gardener and loved her flowers and plants. Now, it was not only the outside that was magnificent, it was also the interior, and I will have some pictures up that will show you sort of what some of these rooms did look like eventually, but they were beautifully designed in very large rooms with marble fireplaces and other extremely decorative pieces, including molding and plaster pieces, some of which we actually have on display here, and giant pieces of furniture like the mirror, the pier glass mirror that we have here, which stood in one of the rooms. Now, the interior layout had a wide hall through the center with 2 very large wings added on with spacious rooms throughout. In fact, it was so large that they actually had a ramp built into the basement where whole wagon loads could just go down in and drop off their supplies and come back out. And also outside, but out front, something that you can actually, the lone piece of the home that you can still see today on the present site is the wrought iron fence that was built along the property. That still stands in front of the parking lot for the Richmond Memorial Library, also built by the Richmonds, where the mansion once stood. Now, all the rooms had the best and most expensive finishings and fittings possible, including the master bedroom and bathroom, which had all silver fittings in it. Due to their wealth and their status, they held many important balls and galas in the home to show off a lot of these pieces and the beautifulness of their home. And one of these was an annual holiday ball, which all the most important people in the area would come to. Now, the Richmond family, the children and grandchildren of Dean, would eventually sell the home in 1928 to the Batavia Board of Education for $75,000, and it would operate as the children's home for the area. And it was in that capacity until 1966. So there's still actually residents around who remember living there or going there as children when it was operating as a children's home. Now, the children's home would close down and go into a different system, and the mansion would be sort of left in a rut, and for a few years it was operated sort of as its own museum or attraction by the Landmark Society, but they were not able to handle the upkeep that was needed for such a massive and exquisite building. So eventually it was voted to be torn down, and this happened in 1970, and the reason behind it could be manifold, but a lot of it was to expand the library behind it and also give more parking in that area, which was desperately needed not only for the library but also for the St. Joseph's Church, which was next door. Now we have quite a few pieces here from the mansion itself. I mentioned the pier glass, and I'll show you some of the moldings and actually another piece of furniture. But in case, for those of you who've never seen it, I'll also show you a nice little picture, but I'll have some pictures you'll see some pictures throughout that will give you an idea of the grandeur as well. Now here you can see some of the plaster molding pieces that were in the grand ballroom that ran along the top molding, or in some cases in the center of the room, just to give you a small taste of sort of the exquisite craftsmanship that went into this building. And here is a more straight-on view of the pier glass mirror that we have. It measures well over 7 feet tall and is made out of gilded plaster with a marble base. So it's an exquisite piece just on its own. And we also have a piece of the rear banister from the home. And then also here we have some of the rosewood cabinets that line some of the rooms, and you can actually see this in one of the pictures that we have of the mansion itself. Well, I hope you enjoyed this edition of our Artifact video series. Again, if you've missed any previously, feel free to go to our YouTube channel, Holland Land Office Museum, and you can check out all of them. We've done now over 50 videos. I think we've actually done a year's worth of videos. They've come out every week. So if you've enjoyed them, please stop down and check out all the artifacts for yourself, and you can learn even more about them. And stay tuned for future videos.